Deals other than gifts and charities require statements from one or both sides. If you're giving a gift or a charity, you don't need statements from either side. So if you want to give someone a gift, you can just put the money in his hand and don't say anything, and he doesn't have to say anything, and that's valid. The difference between a gift and a charity, by the way, is that the gift is for rapport and the charity is for helping. Deals will require statements from one or both sides. But not a gift or a charity. And the statements of those deals, they can be explicit or implicit. Explicit or implicit. Like a divorce. Meaning, when a man divorces his wife, we know if he says it explicitly, that's like him saying, you are divorced. Or he says, I divorce you. That's explicit. Implicit is like he says, go back to your family, or cover yourself in front of me, or you're not lawful for me, or other things. Those are not explicit divorce statements. And so when it's implicit, not explicit, it's going to require an intention. When it's explicit, it doesn't require an intention. Just like divorce. Just like blasphemy even. Just like the rules of blasphemy. If it's explicit, it doesn't matter what your intention was. So a man divorced his wife by saying, you are divorced. And then after that he says, I didn't intend to divorce though. It doesn't matter. Because he said the words explicitly. Just like if he said blasphemy, explicit blasphemy, it will be blasphemy, even if he said, I didn't intend to blaspheme. So all the other deals, they could be explicit or implicit. But when they are implicit, the wording I mean, then they need an intention. So explicit sale is like to say, sell me this for such and such amount. Or, I buy this from you for such and such amount. Implicit, while having an intention, is like to say, let me get that for such and such. So when he says that with that intention, that's a valid sale. That's a valid statement, rather. That doesn't deny that some deals require very specific statements, though. We're going to say, like marriage, you have to say, I marry my daughter to you. You're not going to say, I gift my daughter to you, for example. But what if a person can't speak? The mute makes understandable gestures, like sign language. And if his gestures are understandable to everyone, then that's counted as explicit. Now, very important point here. What about writing? What about a written contract? Writing is to preserve the verbal agreement, not replace it. Very important. Perhaps a non-Muslim person, he would say, that's irresponsible. Yeah, because the meaning of this statement, writing is to preserve the verbal agreement, that basically means verbal agreement has priority over written agreement. So non-Muslims, they do acknowledge verbal agreement, but not over a written agreement. They don't acknowledge a verbal agreement over a written agreement. And one might think that that's sound or sounder. But this way is sounder. Writing is to preserve the verbal agreement, not replace it. How does sounder? Very easy, because really, at the end of the day, this is what I want to say. Because truly, if you do verbal agreement with someone, then you're not going to cheat him, or it's going to be harder, unless he's slow. It's easier to cheat someone with a written agreement than a verbal one. Because if someone is talking to you right there in front of your face and telling you what he wants and what he doesn't want, and you're also communicating with this person, saying what you want and what you don't want, then at the end you'll agree or disagree, and it will be clear. You could take a layman who's not a lawyer. He doesn't know law. He's just a regular commoner. And then you say to him, I'll sell this to you for such and such. And he might say, no, that's too much. Sell it to me for this much. And you say, no, that's too low. I'll sell it to you for this much. And you say, okay. So that's a simple example. But the point I'm getting at is just the fact that you're talking and going back and forth. And he understands what you say. You understand what he says. If you said to him, listen, I want to make this deal with you, but I want in our deal to have a sub provision for custody arrangement after the blah, blah, blah. So the other person who's hearing, if he's listening, he would say, what does that mean? So then if you're a non-Muslim who thinks writing is better, you're going to say, it's written in the paper, go talk to your lawyer. And if you are a straightforward thinking Muslim and you know that what Islam says is better, you'd say, what it means is this. And you explain it to him, and then he will understand. And then like that. And then you say, okay, I agree. Okay, I agree. All right, let's write that down now. And now that's it. Very clear, very sound, no cheating. And by the way, if you add online deals, that increases the factor for cheating because it's all written. And then you wouldn't know. They would have something written somewhere on their website or some provision somewhere that you never saw. Or what will they do? They'll make you a deal and they offer you something for free. But if you don't cancel it, they'll charge you for it, and then you'll forget about it and you don't want it. So writing is to preserve the verbal agreement, not replace it. Except the mute, since he can't speak. Then writing will replace the verbal agreement for the mute, because he can't speak. And a written divorce requires an intention, even if what is written is itself an explicit sentence. Writing a divorce needs an intention always. Saying a divorce does not always need an intention. Saying a divorce only needs an intention when it's implicit. And it doesn't need an intention when it's explicit. But writing a divorce will always need an intention. Some deals require witnesses, like marriage, but not divorcing or returning. A divorce does not require a witness, and a return of the wife to the marriage does not require a witness. Why do we need statements for our deals, according to Ash-Shafi'i? It's because selling is by consent. This is Ash-Shafi'i's reasoning. Selling is by consent. Any deal is by consent. And consent is in the heart. And what is in the heart is unknown until it's expressed. So Ash-Shafi'i said, you don't know the consent of the person until he comes out of his mouth and says, I accept. According to Ash-Shafi'i, merely engaging in the action is not enough to express consent. So according to Ash-Shafi'i, if you just go to the store without saying anything, just put the stuff on the counter, gave him the money, they took your money and you took your stuff and they gave you your change. According to Ash-Shafi'i, this is not enough to express the consent. But other scholars said this is sufficient. So that's two sayings. Do you need statements? Do you actually need statements for your deals? For your sales and the like? According to Ash-Shafi'i, you do. And according to some, you don't, as long as what's being done is normal to the people. As long as the way you're doing it is normal between the people, then you don't need statements. However, consent is not considered in some cases. In some cases, one party would have the right and the other party cannot refuse. Like when one side cancels the sale despite the other. According to the proper rules of canceling. Yeah, when one side cancels the sale despite the other. That's valid, as long as it's a valid canceling. Like they're still in the same session. We spoke about that. Or like they did a warranty for 3 days or less, and the person was still within his warranty time, so he cancels. Or like he found a defect in his item, so he took it back and canceled the sale. In these cases, the canceller has the right to do so, even if the other one doesn't want him to. Another case is when the judge has the authority to make you transact. Like to support your wife. So now, even if you don't want to, even if your heart is against that, you have to anyway. Here, your acceptance is meaningless. Also, in the case of divorce, when the man divorces his wife, it doesn't require her consent. Or if he returns her to the marriage. Also, consent is not needed when a new partner preemptively buys out an old partner. So, in the case of partnership, what if one of the old partners sells his share? So now you have a new associate in the partnership. This new associate, the religion allows you to buy him out immediately. You can't delay. That means you can say to him, how much you paid for that? Okay, here's your money. Thanks. Have a nice life. Yes, the new partner. But you have to do that immediately. If you don't do it immediately, you lose the right to do it. Immediately means as soon as you find out you have a new partner, or that your old partner sold his share, for example. Or the old partner, for example, he made his share the dowry of his wife. He says, oh, I've got a great investment. I'll make this my share of this partnership your dowry. And he did so. And then you learn that you have a new partner now. So you can buy her out immediately. We'll come back to that, inshallah. Also, in the case of debt transfer, our usual scenario is to say A owes B and B owes C. So B transfers A to C. So now A has no word in this. There's nothing he can do here. And the last case we have here is for the father to give his virgin daughter in marriage without her consent. But that's under conditions, not absolutely. Only a virgin, yes. The father can give his virgin daughter away without her consent, under conditions, not absolutely. Among those conditions is that the man she's being married to is a match for her. There's rules for that, which we're not going to go far there. I just want to talk about the issue of consent. So among the conditions is that the man is a match for her in the first place. So for example, if she's royalty, her father doesn't marry her to a trash man. So that's one condition. Another condition is that there's not enmity between father and daughter. Like they don't hate each other. And there's other conditions. And this rule, some people would find it shocking in our time. Although it's not strange, it's not abnormal, but we live in abnormal time. And someone would say, how could he do this to her? But the fact of the matter is that the religion allowed the father to do that because he is of all men the one who has the greatest compassion for her. He is the one out of all of her men who will be keen to take best care of her. As for a deflowered woman, non-virgin woman, no one can give her in marriage unless she's pubescent and consenting. In other words, if a girl was below puberty and she's not a virgin, she's not married and she's not a virgin and she's below puberty, she cannot be married. She cannot get married. No one can give a deflowered woman away in marriage unless she's pubescent and consenting. That's even her father. Now, sometimes some people would put some conditions in their deals. This chapter here, this section that I'm reading to you about stipulations in the contract, it's lacking. I would like to build it up more, but for now I don't have more information to add to it. But this is what I have for you. The messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "The very truthful tradesmen shall be gathered on resurrection day with the prophets, the siddiqs, and the martyrs." The siddiqs are an order of saints. One must adhere to all valid stipulations of a contract and must not cheat. You have to adhere to all valid stipulations of a contract. Like if you hired someone, whatever stipulations y'all agreed on, you have to adhere to that. Salary, time, etc., work, or a dowry. A man married a woman and he has to pay her a dowry. Whatever they agreed to, he has to adhere to that. And he must not cheat. The Muslim can't cheat. Like circulating counterfeit money. That's cheating. Or dyeing a slave's white hair black. That's cheating. Not even when dealing with a combatant, an enemy combatant. If you were at war and somehow you found yourself doing a sale or a rental or the like with a soldier from the enemy, he's an enemy combatant. Meaning you two really, it's your job to kill each other right now. And you found yourself doing a deal with this person, then you can't cheat him. Even with that status, you can't cheat him. Sometimes when people put stipulations into contracts, and stipulation means condition, sometimes some stipulations are invalid. The stipulation is invalid, and sometimes it's valid. Now, invalid stipulations, it depends on what the stipulation is, and it depends on what the deal is. Is the deal still valid although the condition was invalid? Or does the condition nullify the deal altogether? Sometimes it's this way and sometimes it's that way. It depends on the issue. Sometimes the stipulation will be invalid, but the deal still stands. And sometimes, because the stipulation is invalid, the whole deal is invalid. Not every invalid stipulation invalidates the deal, like a condition of a man to not marry another wife. If it were added into the marriage contract, under the condition that you don't marry another woman, the marriage contract is still valid and that condition is nothing. Is nothing. Making a condition in the marriage for a man, in the marriage contract, for a man to not marry another woman is an invalid condition, but it does not invalidate the marriage. It's just worthless. Also, another example. You have a partnership, and one of the partners does more work than the other, or others. So he says, I will be partners with you all under the condition that I get paid more. Under the condition that I get higher commission than the rest of you. This condition is invalid, but the partnership is still valid. So the meaning of this talk right now is this. Whenever you do a religiously valid partnership, which we're going to talk about, you can only profit or lose based on the percentage of your contribution. If you contributed 25%, then that's it. You can't make any condition to get more than your 25%, because that's what you contributed it. So that's what you get out. So you can't say, yeah, okay, yeah, I only contributed 25%. That's true. And you guys have 75%. That's true. But I do more work than all of you, so I want to make a condition that I get paid more. This condition, let's say they agree, that's invalid condition, but it will not invalidate the partnership itself. They're still partners, and they need to not do that. What they can do is just give them a bonus or give them a gift, not a conditional salary increase. Is that clear? Okay. Therefore, if someone says, I gift you this for the rest of your life, I gift you, so that's the deal here, is a gift. I gift you this. And then the stipulation is for the rest of your life, meaning once you die, it's not yours anymore. It comes back to me, for example. Or if you die before me, I take it back. So he's saying, I gift you this. That's the deal. And if you die before me, I take it back. That's the stipulation. In both of these examples I gave you, the gift is still valid. Whether the person said to you, I give you this gift for the rest of your life, this gift is still valid. Or if he said, I give you this gift, and if you die before me, it comes back to me. The gift is still valid, but the stipulation is nothing. And the reason why the gift stays valid here is because when the person says, I give you this gift for the rest of your life, that's just like saying, I give you this gift. Saying for the rest of your life is not going to have any bearing. Because once it's his, then it's his. It's going to stay his until he dies, unless he gives it away or sells it or something. So saying, I give you this gift for the rest of your life, that part for the rest of your life is nothing. Kind of, but more that just the fact that the ownership changed and it's a permanent ownership. The ownership is permanent. It's not going to stop being his unless he does something to change that. There's no condition you can put to make it stop being his. So that's what you're saying. There's no condition you can put that'll make it stop belonging to him. So when you say, I'll give it to you for the rest of your life, that part's nothing for the rest of your life. It's going to be mine for the rest of my life unless I give it away or sell it or something. And also, if he says, I give you this gift, and if you die before me, I take it back. This condition is invalid because it still means I give you this gift for the rest of your life. Then the part of, then I take it back, that's nothing. It's invalid. But the gift is still valid. So the gift is valid and the condition is invalid because one would not own something unless he were alive. Saying, I give you this for the rest of your life, he's only going to own it if he's alive. So that's nothing. So when he dies, his heirs will get it since it was a valid gift. It won't go back to the other person because the stipulation was invalid. However, if he says, I give you this house as long as I am alive, or I gift you this house as long as I am alive, or as long as so-and-so is alive, then the whole gift is invalid. Because this condition just defied the gift altogether. And a sale cannot be made contingent or conditional upon something. nor can a marriage. So you can't say, I'll sell you this if my dad comes home. If someone said, I sell you this if my dad comes home, you can't say, I accept. That's an invalid sale. And what invalidated it was the condition. Same thing for the marriage. Can't say, I give my daughter in marriage to you if such and such happens. Let's do one more point here. When does a deal expire? Some deals don't have an expiration, like a sale. A sale cannot expire. And a marriage cannot expire. When we say expire here, we're not talking about you divorced her. We're saying the time runs out, then that's it. It was merely a matter of time, and then the marriage will be canceled. There's no marriage like that. Same thing for the sale. There's no sale that allows you to put an expiration on the ownership of the buyer. And also, if you returned your wife, it can't be having an expiration. Like, you can't say, I returned my wife for 5 more hours. You just have to say, I returned my wife, or something like that. Also, giving a reward. Whoever finds my cat gets $100. Giving a reward, you cannot put an expiration on that. That doesn't mean you can't cancel it. You can cancel it, meaning you can just altogether cancel it and say, all right, I'm not doing it anymore. But you can't say something else. I need to check the example. Also, marriage cannot have an expiration. You don't say, I marry you for such and such amount of time. And a rental by time must expire. To be rented or hired by time, then it must expire. And one last thing here, if you found something, one thing concerning expiration, if you found something, like finders, keepers, losers, weepers, as they say, if you found something, then you have to wait a year before you lay claim. Once that year expires, then you can say, I take possession of this thing that I found. And then you can use it.